Unconditional love.
Aloha! Welcome to the House of Unconditional Love. I am Kiyose Daiji, and this is Simran Nishan Kaur, and we are your ministers of unconditional love today. So, the House of Unconditional Love is a place where we share all parts of reality, all parts of who we are, as a way of acknowledging unconditional love in this reality, that everything is love. And when everything is love, that's unconditional love. And when we can see unconditional love in everything, we are able to begin to see the heaven on earth that's right here, right now.
So in that stillness, in the field, we are. So the core teaching, core way of being is what you just shared with us. Recognizing that within everyone, everything. And today, our wisdom sharing is around the consciousness of understanding. Consciousness of understanding beyond right or wrong. Oh, feel that. Oh, right. There's an old commercial. It's like, cold as ice. Ooh. But you may feel that when someone says there's no right or wrong, or somebody is wrong, somebody is right, you are right, or you are wrong. There's this stance. And so today we're going to inquire, we're going to swim in that ocean, in the field of understanding in some ways, because unconditional love holds all of it, and including right or wrong and the understanding of it. So last night I was pondering this right or wrong and whether we should even bring it to you for discussion, for looking at what the teachings are around the understanding, the conscious understanding of right doing and wrong doing. And we nearly didn't. We nearly didn't, because I was like, no. How can we do this? So I have a poem here, or a quote actually, from a fellow mystic. You may know him. His name's Rumi. And he says, out beyond the ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there. Out beyond the ideas of right doing, wrong doing, there is a field, and I'll meet you there. So it offers profound wisdom about moving past judgment and to find what you may call your peace, or your I say iron, but peace is sort of more romantic, I guess, right? Find your space within the space, right? Within that field. So what do you want to add to that? That's the starting point of the discussion today.
Yeah.
Feeling it? You feeling it? Also let us know in the chat.
Yeah. And so the idea of going beyond right or wrong is really looking at understanding what's going on over blaming or judging. When we come from a place of unconditional love and we accept both the love and fear of what's happening, we can see when something might be wrong, that there is some fear there. Wrong can be a conditioned awareness. It's a conditioned awareness or knowing. And so that's generally a fear. And so when we look at somebody doing something wrong, are they expressing more love or more fear? And we could relate more fear with wrong and less fear or love, sharing more love with that what's being right. And when we look at it like that, rather than saying that we don't want it as a part of life, we recognize it as a fear of life. That there's a fear of life happening there that needs addressing. And whether it's an extreme situation or a small situation, in extreme situations where you have things like burglary and murder and these crazy things that we see as human beings, and it's easy to say that those are wrong. And yes, they're probably not the most healthiest way to communicate our feelings of our love and fear of life, because it's more of a projection. It's a projection of our own fear. And so when we start to look at our experience as more of this love and fear, we start to have a compassionate understanding about what's happening. and a conscious understanding of what's happening from a place that accepts both the love and fear as a part of life. So with them not judging the fear, we just know that the fear needs attention in some way, and it needs some way to help either the person move through it, whether that is something that when you look at crime and those kinds of things, rehabilitation. What does that mean? These people are experiencing more fear than they can handle, and they're expressing that and projecting it into the world. This is part of understanding how we take ownership of our fear, and as each individual one of us start to take ownership of our love and fear, we become that mirror for others that may have a harder time accepting that fear. And so the bigger the mirror of unconditional love comes, the more we accept this love and fear as a part of life, the more it can impact and support those that may not have the money for food or something like that, and they're so afraid they need to go steal or something like that, right? That they recognize that there's a fear there, and perhaps our society can start to see what's going on as far as the love and fear being projected, and we start finding solutions. And this is where our own personal expression of this love and fear comes in. When we accept ours, we start to move toward this space of understanding our own personal expression of unconditional love that heals the world in our way, in our own expression of unconditional love, and accepting both the love and fear that make us a unique individual human being.
Okay.
How's that?
Okay. All right. Let's break that down. Oh, my goodness. All right, breathe. It's okay to breathe. It's all right. It's all right to breathe and go, okay, well, how does this relate to me? How do we bring this into our everyday? Why does this matter? Why does the quote that I read matter? Why does what you say matter? Why does what I say matter? Is it right or wrong? How does
Right.
That's the what we're saying, and then there's what we're doing. So wrongdoing, right doing, and the understanding of that. So why does this matter? It invites us to step out of the black and white. It invites us to think outside of the right-wrong dichotomy.
The conditioned box.
And the field, I'm always talking about it's in the field, I'm looking into the field and get my information from the field. The field is unconditional love. And the field is part of me, part of you, part of us.
Everyone.
We are. And again, I'm looking at our background, and I said this to you this morning about, how I'm explaining how we're individual, so the individual mind, and then the conscious or universal mind, so the individual mind to the universal mind, so to speak. It's like this, the night sky. So the night sky has all these aspects to it. And we are, or we could see ourselves as one of the stars, or one of the beams of light, or one of the planets. But we make up the night sky, so to speak. Right? So when we're looking at or understanding what consciousness is, and being, see that even the name, the words more conscious, higher conscious, all of that, it's more
Spiritually.
Yeah, it's more around knowing that you're much more than you could ever imagine or fathom. And you're as tiny as a speck. It's more of a visual. I had the visual of, the dust under the God or the gurus or the, foot. I think it actually is a Sikh saying around, you're the dust underneath the foot, and you're the foot. You're all of it. So, so the field is the state of consciousness where we can experience the freedom from constant judgment, the freedom from, like what you were saying before we came on, like whatever we say, it's not like I'm going to be right or wrong. It's this paradox of the yes and no, the right and wrong, together, and having an understanding of it within unconditional love. So this is where we find inner peace, clarity. So why does it matter? Why does it matter? Freedom of judgment, inner peace, clarity, connection with others at a deeper level.
Yes, much deeper level. Because it's not on the surface then, right? It's not on our conditioned love that I can only love you this way. It goes beyond that, because you're seeing and accepting more of that person in yourself through the acceptance of the love.
Brings up what, I joyfully, I will say to you, is that, are you loving me unconditionally or conditionally? Because sometimes I want to be loved conditionally, right? And I don't say it so much now, but
just understanding the difference between what that is, right?
So there's unconditional love, which is all of it, and as a partner, a husband and wife in ministry together, how are those relationships? How do those stars sparkle, move? What color are they within the night sky?
Yeah. Or it's like, how do we show our love, right? Like love to each other, and as it's generally maybe in something that we do for each other or something like that. Mm-hmm. But in a couple, it can go more intimate and deeper in that way. But it's still just in an acknowledgement of each other and what's happening around the love and fear to maintain an understanding of what's happening, rather than saying what's happening is right or wrong. It's understanding that there's either more fear being expressed or more love. And when there's more fear, it's an opportunity to step back from the fear, to accept it from a place that doesn't judge it. Our ego will keep us in that judgment and blaming place, because it doesn't want to take ownership of the fear. It'll blame and judge by telling a story so that we don't have to feel it ourselves. Mm-hmm. And the thing with that is it works in the moment, but it doesn't necessarily get rid of it. It still maintains that fear in our field or in our nervous system, so that it will continue to come back around in our life. And it'll come back around as another lesson until we actually have the opportunity to stop telling the story and start looking at the fear, and that will actually shift the conditioned behavior that causes the experience to come back over and over and over in our life.
Yeah, so that's the really fear, F-E-A-R. Feel it, or acknowledge it, or somehow accept that it's there in the field. You may not be fully accepting it yet, because you're going to, or the I said it back to front, but it's experience it. So feel it, experience it, accept it, bringing it closer to be able to receive it or repair, or whatever the R might be for you, right? The R in your world, in your life, in your experience. The last point on that I had was why, what does it mean, why it matters, is around love and compassion, which is, you just spoke about that, but love and compassion as guiding principles. So what, and for us, it's unconditional love. So we often say, well, what is the love that you speak of, right? What is the love? Yeah.
Is it a conditioned love, or are we really talking about unconditional love? Because unconditional love will accept all of it. And if there's something we're blaming or judging, it's an opportunity for us to look at what the fear is for us around that. Because if we're judging or blaming something, there is a fear there. And whether we want to move away from that to accept it so that we're not in danger, or there's an opportunity for two people to work on it together consciously. either way, it's taking a responsibility for your own fear and having the opportunity to accept it, whether it's with somebody or by yourself. It's just acknowledging that that's what's going on. It's not a right or wrong. There's more fear there. And the thing about this is that all of us can contribute to helping soften the global consciousness of fear that's out there simply by just practicing accepting fear as part of life. It is our resistance to fear that creates the excess of fear that we see in the world coming out as all this anger, war, separation, all this stuff that's happening. It's people expressing the experience of this overwhelming sense of fear in the global field, global consciousness or field of unconditional love that all human beings experience. Because we're all human. So anything that's a human is experiencing, it's a possibility. And so as a human being, there's a part of us that says, wow, that's a possibility of being human. And if it's something that's horrific, it really, really, we don't know what to do with it. So then we say that's wrong. And we want to push it away or hide it or, get rid of it in some way.
Yeah. I'm what just keeps coming to mind is what eyes are you viewing? What's happening from? What are the eyes that you see? And goes back to the conditioning or the conditioned love. How you've been, how humans, all of us, have been brought up, and what our beliefs are, which condition the eyes that we view through. Most of us have heard of the trauma lenses and those sorts of things. So when we look at something or we hear somebody speaking, even us, you listening to us, there will be sensations in your body for certain words or waves or even movements, how you feel, how we are in your field, right? Which is within the field, right? And so, or wrong, or unconditional. Yeah, so we have these lenses or ways of being, ways of moving through the world, which is the movement is the, I guess we could say the love or fear, or the karma, the dharma. They're both movements that go towards what you're working towards or what you would rather not, right? What's on, directly to unconditional love or within unconditional love, or you digress, right? So anything that we're doing can shift within a moment, right? It's that the bridging between heaven and earth, which is the crossover, right? Any moment, that right can be a wrong and the wrong can be a right because they're within each other. So we could talk about, just touch on the yin-yang symbol, and most people see that as polarity, those poles, but on another viewing of that, it actually is all of it together. So right has wrong within it and wrong has right within it. And if we're only looking at, no, that's not right, what we're really saying, which is what you said before, I'll just say it in my way, is that we feel it in the body and it's not comfortable. So I say, this is my stance in the world, and you feel it, or you see how somebody else is being treated or not treated, and you feel it. It's a sensation, F-E-A-R. Feel it, experience it. See, if we feel it and label it like that, it's conditioned. We're conditioning. It's not what we, when I say we, as that unconditional being, it's what we're being conditioned to.
We've labeled all of our fears, right? All the things that we didn't know about, we gave it a name, so now we know it. And so that,
and it's perfectly okay.
Yeah, that's just how we do it.
I mean, if you call a spade, it's a spade to you, but it might be a shovel to me. What's the difference? What you've been taught and you've taken on as your belief. And if that's your belief, Some people will use that spade or shovel to fight that belief, to fight to keep that belief. So the fear of fear, right? The fear of the survival of that belief system or that way of knowing, or that eye or heart, the eye of the heart, the ear of the heart, right? So what we're talking about, and again, it's funny how the language we use in the mornings comes up. So I was talking about the soothing balm, right? What's the soothing ointment or the soothing balm? It's something that Mary, the Gospel of Mary, she talks about the soothing balm. The soothing balm is looking. It's not even looking. When I say looking, it's looking with the whole self, all of you, not with these eyes. The feeling it and then going, what else? What can I see, feel, sense, know, touch, smell, taste? There's something there, so it's beyond the right and wrong. What else? So there's no critical, I was going to say critical judgment, it's not quite right. Because we want critical judgment. We want to be critically looking at a right or wrong and going, there's, what else?
There's some fear there we need to work on. There's some fear there we need to work on. It's just, once we acknowledge it as a fear, we can see that there can be something done with the right or wrong. We don't just put it away. We don't shut it down. If there's something wrong with what we look like, what we feel like, whatever, and we try to push it down, that's not going to help. That's going to help it grow, because our fear of it will expand it into greater expression of resisting it. And as we come to accept it, we can then choose whether we want to use it in any one moment or not conditioned by it. Because there may be times in our life where we may need that behavior. It's just having a consciousness of that fear so that we can then choose.
Yeah, it's fully done us well if we're holding on to it, but you may have outgrown that jacket. You need a new coat. Maybe it's hot now, so you need a vest instead of a coat, right? Or you don't need a coat at all. Maybe you need a singlet or a t-shirt or a dress or
But then you don't necessarily throw out the jacket, because if you go to the snow,
you might get cold.
But you can choose then. It's not a conditioned behavior, it's a choice. Because we're not then just falling into the behavior. We're saying, it's cold, so I need a jacket. I'm consciously acknowledging that I'm afraid of being cold. So now I'm going to put on something that'll keep me warm.
So I've got a couple of questions that we can maybe touch on and talk to. We've already spoken about the first one, so I'm saying, how to apply the wisdom, right, to question your judgment. We touched on that a little, but it's about, asking what lies behind the judgment or behind the information.
There's somewhere behind that judgment or blame is a fear. Just be curious about that.
Because we're just labeling it for categorization. Like, this is what I would or wouldn't do, or if that. So when you look at something or you experience something, if you're feeling it really strongly in the body, it's saying, hey, have a look at this pain, this wound, and the soothing balm. See, it makes more sense now. The soothing balm of the purity of unconditional love will heal you. So when we see, feel, sense, have that sensation in the body, if you watch TV or somebody says something to you and you say, rather than pointing or looking out, going, that was painful. Right? When the sensation outweighs or what's the word? It's not weigh, but out is bigger than the experience that actually happened, you know that there's many, many other experiences that have built up that haven't been, or they've been judged, right or wrong. You've been conditioned by them, we have. And then when we see it in a particular way, it triggers. That's the charge. It's literally the voltage that's still held. So when we're going, that person did something, or we experienced it, we felt it, and then we go, that feels uncomfortable, maybe that's wrong.
because we're conditioned by saying that when we feel something,
Move away.
Move away.
Get away.
Which
it's dangerous.
Which is part of the challenge with the fear of love, because the sensation's the same in the body.
Mm-hmm.
The fear of love is the same as the fear of fear, but if we don't accept fear, it's harder to distinguish between what's one and which. So
yes.
That's why we are kept in the box.
Oh, I've got a good one on that. Can I jump in?
Definitely.
So I remember numerous times there's a sensation that we feel when we suspect, I'm going to say, when we think we are in love. You know, that like, oh, that person, every time I see or hear or their name or whatever, I feel it in my body. And I've researched this. I've looked at it over many, many years with a lot of people, even myself. And I notice there's patterns. And they're slightly different, but it's like these patterns of when we are, it's almost like the antenna. Some people will call it the antenna, and like the same wound will draw the person, but the way they got the wound would be different. But you know, whatever that fear or fear of love is, that's the wounding, right? To some degree, we just label it that. You know, it's the experience that's been conditioned, right? And so when that's that person reminds you, because it's not even about them, it's the energy. It's the energy of the field around that person that holds the echo of their traumas and their experiences that you're drawn to, because they're the experiences that you're familiar with, that are echoing in your field. And they're like, oh, hello, 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 hello. And the other person's like, hey, here I am, here I am, here I am. And you do this dance, and it's a charge in the body. And you're like, but I love this person. You know that charge is the wound. It's not love. And this is why I say the lower three centers of the human, the human mind, and we have higher minds. But when we understand our mind as a human, what the intelligence is when we are unconscious, out of the body, so to speak, our physicality, our physical vehicle has the organicity, the innate intelligence to keep going. Without that aspect, we may call it soul aspect, in it. So when I was in a coma, near-death experiences, those sorts of things, right? The physical body continues. That's that mind, right? When the other parts of us are within and around this physical, there are other aspects of mind. So I just wanted to put that in, because we're talking about individual mind, universal mind, you know, and there's the personal, we would say the personal web and the universal web in more mystical terms, right? Same thing, I guess. So when we're drawn in and we feel that sensation, the sensation is the opportunity to go, what is it? Look at it. Look at it and go, I'm feeling this, because this is how I understood it. Because I would meet people and it would baffle me, because I'm like, wow, I feel the same way. It's the same sensation. What's going on? And having the opportunity to understand them and their energy and their field, and go, and over time, because that's what research is, you know, right? We see the same pattern.
It's like having a common fear to work on together. That's understandable, right? And so this is kind of where we can start to look at like the depth of our consciousness, and where we connect in this oneness, where all of us have this connection to each other through this understanding, and it kind of, you know, like there's a question about when we're talking about a soul, and this goes back to the word love. Are we talking about unconditional love, or an unconditional soul, or are we talking about a conditioned soul? Because this is where maybe the idea of belief comes in, because we're believing that our soul is unconditional. And if we believe that our soul is unconditional, then we can start to look at what this unconditional or infinite, thing is. And because it's infinite, we each have our own way of expressing a little piece of that through us, and that's our soul, our unconditional soul coming into the body. And what gives this? This was the spark thrown forward to this conversation. Yes, yes, and kind of like the idea that this unconditional soul is from this unconditional love. It's this field of unconditional love is that soul that is within each of us. So if we can understand the soul as unconditional, then we can start looking like, yeah, okay, so if it's everything, meaning unconditional means everything, I get that includes that person, this object, everything. It's a lot of information. It's a lot of information to think of everything we know and everything we don't know. And then as a human being, if we put ourselves...
I feel like I need to draw.
And create a consciousness of this. We just create a consciousness of everything that we know and don't know. It's out there. Mm-hmm. We haven't labeled it yet, and it can be overwhelming. And this is a level of consciousness, the awareness of something that is greater than ourselves, something that is unconditional, something that is, we haven't labeled it yet. And we're labeling all kinds of parts of it. We're labeling as much as we can to try and have a relationship with it. It's just acknowledging that that's what's going on. Because when we start to do that, when we start to see people in everyday life, it's not saying, we're not going to say right or wrong anymore. It's going to say we see right or wrong as love and fear. So that our understanding of when somebody's doing something wrong, that there's more fear there. And then we have to see, is that fear from us, or is it being projected from them, that we can say that's something that's wrong? So if it's a projection that's harming other people, we would say that was
a
wrong.
Malicious act.
Yeah, we would say that was wrong. That's a wrong thing to do. And yet, if we look at it as a fearful thing, like this person's more afraid of what's going on in the world, and this is how it's impacting them, that, yeah, we don't need to keep that in society. We just need to look at it from a more compassionate place so that we can understand their fear. If we don't take the time to understand these criminals or people who do malicious things, if we don't understand that behavior or give them an opportunity to accept it, then it'll keep happening in our reality as human beings, because it'll be in the field. It'll be something that we don't accept. And so it'll just keep happening over and over and over. And the more we resist it, the more it happens. And that's just it's not right or wrong. It's just one's going to build more fear and one's going to lessen more fear. And that one will create more individuality and one will create connection. And so if we accept both, then we'll end up somewhere there in the middle.
So I'm drawing a little picture. And then I've got a couple of other points. But, you can't see it. On Instagram you can. Why can't you see it? Can you grab me a texter? I don't think the black one works, but we'll see. All right. You see that? Why doesn't it? Oh, there you go. There you go. All right. So this is just say that's me, the little black dot, or you. Actually, we'll draw you here. And we'll draw you here, and you can be here, and you can be here, and you can be here, and you and you and you can be here and here and here. And all the other yous are there, okay? And so as I work or acknowledge my love and fear, my fear of love, it allows me to expand to connect with spirit, right? So you can't really see it. Can you give me the blue one? Because this one doesn't work. And what you were just talking about, this you. All right. Okay, so we're expanding out. And we can keep going way, this, to unconditional love, right? But unconditional love is all of this, right? But if this is, that's me, and this is Kyosei, he's doing the same. And here is, who else is on there? I can't see any names, but Rebel might be on there, Lisa might be on there, Emily might be on there, Yosei might be on there, Jennifer might be on
You
there.
see how some of them cross over and
Oh,
some are different, some could be totally different, but some cross over and some don't.
So down here, if we draw a line down here, we're not crossing over until here. Right? And the further out we go, this is still Kyosei. He's crossed over my field way over here, so this much, right? And up here he's crossed over my field this much. And going on and on and on until our fields, all of our fields, are the same. The further, can't see it on the restream, but we expand our consciousness. So eventually, see this person over here, we'll call that person Janet. Janet doesn't touch into the field with me in the same way until way up here.
Yeah, and that could be by location, because when we're together, we're actually blending our fields in that way too. So it's a beautiful example.
So we're all stars in the sky, right? So we have our individuation, we have our connection. But thank you. I just wanted to do that because the next point of how to apply the wisdom is to practice meditation, right? To practice meditation, to find your inner field. And why I'm saying that is because as you, I've probably lost my picture now, but as you meditate or as you sit, as you contemplate who you are, like in that stillness, which we'll do at the end, your ability or your acceptance, your direct experience of the field as a more expanded reality happens. Now, one more thing. With regards to nervous system, you'll love this. I don't think I've shown you this before, but so here we've just got, so our nervous system is this grid up here, right? From here to here, all the way to expanded, the most expanded experience, the field, Purity of Unconditional Love, and this little dot where, you know, we first are conceived and our brain and spinal cord and all the nerve and, you know, everything's starting to go so we can feel the sensation. So what we're saying is, and a lot of our work, but the ministry is about giving you an idea and some other ways of knowing that you have the capacity so far beyond possibly what you may know. I don't know. That's making a judgment, an assumption. But last thing, as you build your nervous system, your capacity, as you experience the love, fear, and the fear of love, you are expanding, and that expansion feels uncomfortable. It might feel like you get nervous or you get shaky or you, right? There are different sensations. You feel sick in the stomach, whatever it is, your pain, your aches and pains when you're not grounded and whatnot. Because as you grow on all levels, as you expand, your nervous system goes, holy, you know what, Batman, right? And there are symptoms, I call them symptoms, but there are experiences that you will feel as sensations in your body that you'll either accept and say, this is right or this is wrong. And if it's wrong, you'll try to shift it. And if it's right, you'll be like, oh, right? This is what's happening. I'm growing. This is my development. I'm on the right path, or whatever you might say. I don't know, right? So our nervous system has the capacity to be, what's the word? To be, do, be, are, all of that.
Yeah.
But we need to, this is our conscious evolution. This is the evolution of the human life. Right?
Yeah, it is. And it does come from accepting those fear and fear of love. See, that those are the ones that are helping our nervous system to come out of the conditioned thousands of years of conditioned patterning that create human, right? And all the ways that we deflect fear or try to hide from it or whatever. When we start to accept that, our nervous system and its ability to accept what's happening expands. This is what we're talking about, expansion. So as we're accepting reality, we're accepting life, and we're accepting all these little fears in our life, all these conditioned patterns, all these past things keep coming up, and we're accepting. There's a point in our consciousness when we realize that we're getting better at accepting the fear of life. And when we start to shift that relationship with fear, that expansion becomes where we can see it then. Because when we're on the lower levels, we can't see past our own conditioned ego.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we start accepting fear, and fear love as a practice, which is spiritual ego, spiritual ego has some practice to do that, and it moves it into expanding the nervous system to accepting more and more of who we are as unconditional love. You know, more of the universe, more, you may be talking to aliens or angels or anything, right? It's more information that we need to accept in our own personal nervous system. And as we get to that certain point, we can see that it goes forever. But before we get there, before we accept fear, we feel trapped. There's nowhere to go. We look at our reality. How do we get out of this mess? How do we? Where do we go? The ego doesn't see it. It does not see the path because there's too much fear of fear or fear of love. It is the fear of fear because that is when we fear our greatness, we have a judgment on it, and we're not conscious of that. And that's the constant struggle of somebody, entrepreneur, right? Always pushing that edge of being more and more and more and more. Is always, challenging yourself to accept more of who we are.
So, some of you will be hearing us say you have to be all that, and some of you will be hearing, the other end. What we're actually saying is both and all, right? You're the individual and the universal, right? For want of a better word. So breaking it down to how to apply. So we've done the asking what lies beyond, right? The practice, having a practice where you're being with that yourself in the field, not the self and not all the other aspects, and then choosing compassion over that judgment or criticism first, right? Going, I feel it, I feel something, and this is the practice. It sounds easy. It often
we're conditioned the other way.
Yeah, right. We're conditioned the other way. So when something happens, we feel it, right? It's that first, or getting comfortable with the complexities or the uncertainties, which is what you were just saying. So, these are all practices that it doesn't have to be like you're not going to be like, all of the time. It's really difficult to be in the world, even halfway up that, diagram that I spoke about, right? So it's this practice of the individual and the universal, or the personal and universal grids.
As we evolve as a human race, that expansion of accepting who we are as unconditional love will grow too, right? So yes, personally we will do that and move closer into the unconditional love. As we do it together, it's even a much more powerful expression of then, where do we explore who we are as unconditional love? It becomes more of an exploration here on planet Earth and possibly beyond, right? Because that's the next step. But part of what's holding us here is that we need to understand those aspects of ourselves to free up the wisdom that's behind all the conditioning. Because we have all the knowledge there for doing whatever it is we want. It's just taking the time to accept those fears. When I'm saying to accept those fears, it's like studying how hydrogen, works, or how this works, or how that works, to create energy, to create movement, to how to design a rocket. All of that is accepting the fear of being in space, right? Or the fear of traveling in space. And as we continue to do those here on Earth, we free up the.
Where are you going?
We free up, yeah. Well, we free up the wisdom that's here that allow us to do those kinds of things, because the thing that's keeping us from doing that is our own fear of greatness, and what's keeping us from doing that is our fear, a fear of not surviving.
So interesting, because what creates that veil or block or difficulty or contraction to spirit are those fears, right? Because we're already all of it, and
it's a fear of fear. So you're resisting a part of unconditional love.
So I was just going to say, so during conflict, asking yourself what's missing, what or what's the bigger picture, what's behind. I've always taught this for probably 20 years. I'm like, it's not about looking at the top or the bottom or the front or the back. It's looking at the top, bottom, front, back, left, right, and any other, depending if it's a cube or right, what's underneath, what's behind. And that is critical thinking. It's not going, oh, that's wrong, so I'm good. It's like, I'm curious, because I feel it when you say that, or I feel it when I see those people arguing, or I see it when politicians are doing this, that, or the other. And like, what am I feeling? Why do you feel it? Is it going to impact you in a certain way, or impact others? Where's the fear? What's the fear of fear? What's the fear of love? And eventually you just see it. You just see it. I'm telling you, we're telling you, we're sharing that's possible.
You see everything, yeah.
So I'm just, I want to give us some time to sit, but, it's encouraging us to recognize the limitations.
Yeah.
So
one more piece on that practice. If we have a story which is a blame or a judgment, in that story is our fear. So it's critically looking at our own blame or judgment as a fear and seeing where it is in there. Because the story will point it at somebody else, because we don't want to feel it. And generally, that's the one that we're working on.
Yeah. It's the youing.
Yes, the you.
It's not shooting you to death. It's youing you to death.
You did this, you did that, you.
Yeah. So you can often see that in writing. So that's somewhere that you could practice. Speaking of you, us, that when we're writing, see how often you use the word you, because we're conditioned that way.
That's a projection.
So if you can write it from yourself rather than I feel, those sorts of things. Just changing. So something that you could, just write your letter, or write what you want to write, or write what you're feeling, and then see where the projection is. So by moving past the rigidity of a judgment, we're opening to those deeper connections, and that personal growth, which is, personal growth here, just in this physical, and also in our consciousness from, the diagrams that I was writing. We're expanding.
Accepting and loving more of this reality, this love of life.
So I'm going to light the candle now, just to go into, you ready to sit for a moment?
Yeah, let's sit together.
And practice, literally just sitting with yourself, sitting in the field with us, and sitting with yourself, meaning how you feel, how you are, not thinking about it, not trying to work anything out, just being with that stillness of the chaotic movement. Do you know that it's like, I just want to say one thing, because as I said, stillness, the stillness, it's still because it moves so fast. It seems still.
It's like the love fear, love fear, love fear,
That's
love
the
fear.
paradox
So
that we're talking about. That's the paradox that we're talking about. So, in your immense movement, because if you didn't move so fast in the now, you wouldn't exist. It's only through your movement that you exist. And so we get to a place where we move so fast that we seem still. So in that stillness, the purity of unconditional love. Let's just sit. You want to do one? Okay. So just taking a breath, getting settled, and we're going to sit for how long? 5 minutes? All right, well, you can be the timekeeper. Take a breath. Expand. So may you find the field of unconditional love, and we all meet you there. May the blessings be. I feel like going right now. Just feeling the love. Feel the love, feel the love. All right. May the blessings be until we meet again.